Hello, this is Dr. Graves back with part 3 of the video tutorial series regarding Burbank's climate and weather and calculations using Microsoft Excel. When we left off, you had just calculated some z-scores and analyzed the strange pattern in the weather that has been appearing. So for the last part of this assignment, we're going to create a pivot table of the data. Pivot tables allow us to quickly calculate statistics from a lot of rows and columns of data very quickly and make graphics on the fly. Pivot tables enormously useful. So here's what we'll do is click anywhere in this data block here and press Control and A at the same time. Essentially what that does is just highlight the entire block of data. From here, what you want to do is to click on the Insert tab to reveal the Insert toolbar, and on the far left of these tools is the word Pivot Table. So click on Pivot Table once. This dialog window will appear. It basically is asking us where would you like to put this pivot table for this highlighted data. Just click OK. And what it's going to do is create a new sheet. Down here you see at the bottom is the table. This is a blank pivot table, and over on the right are the pivot table fields. So the first thing we're going to do is to click over here in the pivot table fields box, year, and then month to activate those two things. And if you notice over on the left side in the pivot table, we have our 3 years of data, and under each of the years, 12 months. Next, we're going to activate by clicking a check the precipitation value. Click, and notice in the lower right hand box here under the sum of values area, it has sum of precipitation. And so this pivot table over here at the right is giving us the sum of the amount of rain that fell in each month of 2015, and then you see the same again for 2016 and 2017. Pause the video here and answer a question or two in your learning management software. Here's a quick cool thing that you can do. Scroll down just a bit and look at and check off the DP Precip Av, and that will show you just how much we should be getting precipitation on average each month if our months were similar to the 30-year averages established from 1980 to 2010. So you can go ahead and uncheck that last column because we're going to move somewhere else during this tutorial. In the fields to add, let's add TAV, which is temperature average, average daily temperature, and it gives us a sum of average temperatures. And this isn't a very useful data because we don't really want to add up those things. So down here in the lower right hand corner, next to the word sum of TAVG, there's a down arrow. Click on that. It brings up this little dialog box. Click on Value Field Settings once and change that from sum to average and click OK. Now it shows you that the temperature average for 2015 was 68.14 degrees and slightly cooler in January. And there you see that the average temperature in 2015 for August is 79.74. I've pasted a bit of data in here just to give you an indication of what the average temperature, for example, should be each year if the climate was normal. And here you can see what it is for these 3 years, and in each of these 3 years it was above normal. Here's how much rain Burbank typically gets over the course of the year, and then you can see again these yearly totals in the bold for each of the 3 years. And again, I've pasted some data in here so that you can take a look quickly in this video of what the average, say, high and low for each day is, plus the average precipitation over the 30-year normal period is compared to what we witnessed from 2015 to 2017. If you wanted to add, for example, the observed Tmax to this data, just click on Tmax and again change that value from sum to average, and that allows you to compare the average temperature maximum for each of those months. So there's the average value 72.9 for May in 2015, and you'll see that that's several degrees warmer than the 30-year normal. So I encourage you to play around with pivot tables because it's a really exciting and useful feature of Microsoft Excel. But I believe that you could probably pause this video now and answer some questions in Canvas. The last thing that we're going to do is to take this data here that we have, the precipitation data and the average temperature data, and we're going to turn it into a graphic. So just click once in somewhere on this pivot table. If the fields disappear because you've clicked off, just click in there and they will reappear. I'm going to click once and then press Control-A to select all of this data. And then up here in the pivot table tools, I'm going to click on Analyze, and from the options I'm going to click Pivot Chart once, and it says, okay, this is what this chart's going to look like, and you can click OK, and it's made us a nice graphic displaying this data. This isn't the world's best graphic. You could probably figure it out, but let's customize it a bit. So right-click once on any of these little orange columns that are popping up here, and from the pop-out window, select Change Series Chart Type. Click that once, and what we really want to do is to change the average of TAV from a clustered column diagram to a line diagram first, and then put it on a secondary axis. So check off the box under secondary axis and then click OK. So this gives us what's called a climograph for 3 years running. We can see that in 2017 it was an enormously rainy January versus January of 2015 and even January of 2016. It also shows us the pattern here of temperature over these 3 years, and that 2015 was not only pretty dry, but it had a pretty hot August and September of 2015. By clicking on the month and year icons, you can turn specific years on and off. So that turned off 2016 and 2017, and then I can turn on just 2017 and turn off 2015 and 2016. Experiment with this a little bit, and eventually what I want you to do is just uncheck year once again, and this becomes a graphic of all 3 years, and you can right click on this chart and copy it And if you want to open a new blank document like this, and then you can paste it in, teaching assistant or your instructor for this class may ask you to submit one of these through your learning management system as the last element of this lab. Check the instructions or check with your instructor for specific examples. That ends the video tutorial. You probably have to answer a few more questions in your learning management system, and possibly you have to upload a graphic in some form. I hope you learned something through this video tutorial, and if you have questions, be sure to ask.